We are live now. We're going to wait for people to come into the panel here. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at the America's Course Soccer Coaches Summit. Today is Monday, April 20th, and we have another exciting week filled with amazing speakers and talks and topics to cover for all coaches from different levels to hopefully benefit from. With us today, we have, for the second time, and again, thank you for your time and coming back twice in a matter of 1 week, Daniel Bresno from Bay Area Futsal Club.
Thank you, Hamza. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure for us. Thank you so much. Daniel, last week when you came here, it was just on Friday, and we talked a lot about the small game and using soccer or using futsal to really enhance the development of soccer on the big pitch. The talk was very thorough, very detailed, and we were able to dive deep into the conversation for how it could benefit grassroots soccer or small organizations, small clubs, and at an early level. The talk today is going to be a little bit different. You're going to talk about fitness, and especially for a competitive level. Can we get a quick glance to what to expect today?
Yes, of course. So, as you said, it's going to be a bit the different spectrum. It's not going to be grassroots. It's going to be competition. And I'm going to tell you my experiences with the different national teams that I've been working with in my experience as a coach, with the England Futsal national team, with the representative team from the US in the PFL events, and also with the Libya Futsal national team in the African Cup of Nations the last 4 months. So that is what I'm going to talk about. You okay, Hamza?
I am. I choked on my water. There we go. Ooh, awesome. Yeah, that's going to be... Sorry about that. One last. That's going to be a really interesting talk. We have a lot of college coaches who are tuning in, and especially right now in the time of COVID-19, when we have players sitting at home, keeping up that fitness, keeping up that cardio shape is very critical for their success when they return to the field. So I'm definitely interested and very excited to see the thorough presentation that you have about this subject, and I hope coaches benefit from it. It looks like we have a good number of attendees so far. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite attendees to share their questions and thoughts with us through the comments and the Q&A. For those of you who would like to come in as a panelist as well, when we get to the Q&A section, I'll happily move you up here with us. And if you can open your camera and audio with us, you can have a conversation directly with Daniel and be just more engaged. So I look forward to some of your interactions throughout the chat, and I look forward to adding you later on into the Q&A part. Daniel, without taking any further of your time, I'd like to kick it to you to do a little more introduction to yourself and about the talk you have, and we'll get going with the slides.
Let's see. Do you see now the screen?
Yes, everything looks good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So, as I said before, I'm going to talk about fitness, about my experience with the 3 national teams that I've been working with in my career, with England, with the team in Dallas, the US national team in Dallas, and with Libya. Of course, it's completely different what we can do with each team because the time constraint. I spent almost 7 years working with England. With the PFL teams, we only work for 5, 6, 7 days maximum before the games, and then for Libya, preparing for the African Cup, we were working 3 months. So the process is a bit different, but I'm going to try to explain what we, in the long term, we would like to achieve in any team that I am involved with. So I'm going to try to cover the futsal characteristics. So basically, we will talk about the sport, then the fitness test and the benchmark data that we want our players to be at. With that background, I'm going to propose 10 drills 10 exercises to work on fitness specifically for futsal players. And then something that is very, very important is how players recover between training sessions and between days, because that is something that sometimes coaches we tend to forget. And then we will finish with the conclusions of this talk, and I will give some time for you to ask me questions. So, futsal, 2 halves of 20 minutes, stopping clock in international games, so 40 minutes of play. The total duration of a game usually in the high level is 87 minutes. That if you take out the 10 minutes of the break, that is 77 minutes playing. So basically for 40 minutes play, for the 40 minutes that the game lasts, there is 37 more minutes that basically you are resting. That means there is almost a 50-50 the time that you are playing or the ball is in play and the time that the ball is out. So that gives you a ratio work-rest, which is base 1-1. And this is something very important when we are planning our training sessions. Also, if we see here, when the ball is in play, the 75% of the actions, they last between 1 to 18 seconds. So basically, before the 18 seconds, there is a foul or the ball goes out. But the restart, the period until the ball is played again, the 83% of that time is between 1 to 15 seconds. So again, almost the resting periods and the playing periods in futsal they match up. So again, it's a 1-1 situation. Ratio work-rest 1-1. So as I said, most of the actions, they are less than 15 seconds. Usually there is 160 playing actions during the game and 160 resting periods during the same game. So in 1 minute, we have around 4 times that the game is stopped. This is very important because that means if we divide 60 seconds in between 4, that means 15 seconds. So the ratio, the intermittent workout that we should aim for should be 15 seconds working, 15 seconds resting. This is the ideal ratio 1-to-1 in working and resting. A player playing around 20-25 minutes per game covers approximately 4.5 kilometers. And what is very, very interesting is that from those 4.5 kilometers, more than 50% of them, they are high intensity. And as we can say, the average heart rate during the game is over the 90% of the player's heart rate maximum. So basically, we can see the players, they are playing at an intensity that is super, super high. In this graph, we can see here on blue that the 83% of the time, a player is over the 85% of the personal heart rate maximum. So in futsal, different soccer or different to all the sports, there is no really time when you are on the court to be walking or to be jogging. You have to be a very high intensity, and when you get rest, when you get tired, you go to rest. So just to finish very, very quick with the physical needs of the futsal demands of the sport, we need players with a good aerobic endurance to compete the whole game. Great recovery capacity, and we will talk about that later on. Strength and power, because it's a sport where players they play at high speed, and there is a lot change of directions. If the literature, there is not a lot about fitness in futsal in English. there is a lot of papers in Spanish and Portuguese. So if you really want to learn more about this specific futsal demands, there is a very good review in English. It's here, it's on the screen, so feel free to check it out and learn more about that. So with all this background about the futsal demands, when we are working with a national team, we have some fitness tests that we run usually 3 times per season if we have the possibility to do it, and we have some benchmark data that we want our players to be there. And usually those benchmark data to compare with are top players. So we analyze body composition, we do a squat jump, movement jump, sprints of 10 meters, some agility tests, and then the blip test or yo-yo test that is super important, and you will see why later. We are going to go through all of them and why. So we do body composition. Usually we take 8 skin folds, the weight and the height, of course, and some girth. What we want is we want all the players under 60 millimeters. So basically we have the sum of the 8 sides and we do 60 millimeters. That is the objective. If we have players that they are over that, of course, with the doctor, we try to advise them to modify the diet and help them to try to get in these numbers. Then we do a squat jump and counter movement jumps. For those that you don't know, from the squat jump, if you see here, your hip and your knees, they are 90 degrees. So the players, they jump from that position and they go up. And the target is to get 42 centimeters. That is what we are aiming on a squat jump. However, on a counter movement jump, the player is standing up and the player goes down to use the momentum, the ballistic momentum to go up again. So usually this jump should be higher if the players they use properly their arms and the ballistic momentum. And this is the target that we want. But more importantly, with these numbers and this equation here, give you a number, and the number could be more or less than 10%. If that number is more than 10%, that means that player needs to improve the strength and the explosive strength. And if the number is less than 10%, that means that we have to improve the elastic strength. So basically, we have to use plyometric exercises. With this, we can modify individual training programs for the players, because when we are working with a national team, we only have the players for a limited period of time with us, and we cannot really use that time during training camps to work on fitness. We use that training camp to work on other things, and the fitness usually needs to be outside the training camp. Then, as you can see here on the we run some sprint, that is 10 meters sprint, and we have some gates here at the beginning, another gate there, and another gate here. That way, we can see the 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and 0 to 10 meters times. And on the left, you have the benchmark data that we want to be. Always, we are aiming to be in good or excellent. At the same time, we run an agility test. With 10 meters apart, mark 4 times, so 1 there, turns, so that is the second one, goes again, that is the third, and back, and this is the fourth. So 4 times 10 meters, and we do that without the ball, that is the aim. We do it with the ball, here, and then we calculate the difference between one and the other. And why? Because maybe what we need is players that they are very agile, with the ball, because at the end during the game we play with the ball. So we can have a player that is very, very quick, but however, when he is doing that with the ball, it's slow and the difference is big. So basically, there is no really efficiency. Or we can have a slower player that, however, when he's doing with the ball the same thing, his time is very, very similar. So that is a very, very efficient player. And that is what we're looking at. We want efficient players. Then we do a 505 test, very popular in sports, that basically we are looking at differences between legs. We run maximal speed. Here we have the gates. So that is when the time will start counting. You go there 5 meters, you turn, and you go back, and the time stops. And we tell the players to turn with the right between the right and the leg and the left leg. And our target is on the left hand side here. We want players to be under 2.10 seconds. And then we go to the blip test. I don't know if you know the blip test, but the blip test is that you are 20 meters apart when there is a noise that is marking the pace, and you have to hit the line when you hit the line with the beep goes, and then you come back. There is another one that is yo-yo test. It's very, very similar, but there is some period of rest in between, because technically it's more applicable to intermittent sports as futsal. But for us, we are not really looking at the distance that you get or the stage that you get, which of course is important, but we are looking at something different. We are looking at something that we call the heart rate recovery index. So our players, they do this with heart rates because we have the possibility to do it. And if you see here, we have a heart rate graph. It's a real example for a player. So here is the beginning of the test, and here is the end of the test. So this player did 15 stages, but I said it's not important. We are looking for that point when the test finishes. Usually, that is your maximum heart rate if you perform well. And we are looking at that number. Then we look at that number, which is number one, minute number 1, minute number 2, minute number 3, minute number 4, minute number 5, because we tell the player to replicate the situation. So a player is playing, as I said before, you are playing at your maximum heart rate or over 90%, and then the coach tells you to sit down on the bench, so you sit down. So what we do is we try to replicate that. So we are doing the test. As soon as the player, they finish the test, we tell them to sit down, to recover, and we analyze the next 5 minutes of their recovery, and we are looking at those numbers. So in that example, we have the player here, 15 stages, doesn't matter. The maximum heart rate here, the heart rate at the minute 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we calculate what I said is called the heart rate recovery index, and that is here, okay, for each minute. We calculate that with this equation that you have underneath. You only need the age, the heart rate maximum, and then the heart rate at each minute. And there is some studies that say that to be able to compete and recover properly, at least you should try to get 80, a number of 80 here on the minute 2. So this is the target that we give to our players. We analyze our players, and the objective is to get in less than 2 minutes a number of 80. And depending on this, we can again modify the personal individual training programs that the players they carry on their time outside the training camps. In this graph, you can see as an example, I put Spanish professional players from first division, the international futsal academy players that I used to work in England, Spanish non-professional players that they are training 2-3 times, and then my England national team. Okay, so if you see here, the blip test, the stages, they run longer. The English players, they run longer. They were almost 2 more stages. But we are not looking at how long you run. What we are looking is at how quick you recover. And then if you see here, there's a big difference between them. That is the heart rate at the minute 2. And then if we analyze the index on the minute 2, we can see the big differences. I don't really know the reasons, but I think that those Spanish players, that they are pro, they have been for so many years just training a specific futsal, so their body gets some adaptations to this kind of training and to that environment. That means that they recover quicker. However, our England players, most of them, they are coming from football, and then when they saw that they were not going to make it in football, they jumped into a futsal, but during their lives, they have been playing football and not futsal. So those adaptations of years and years training specifically, it didn't produce. That is my idea, but I don't really know. What I really want to tell you is that the recovery is super important in futsal, and the aim is to try to get close to 80 at least in 2 minutes. So with all these physical demands of the sport that I explained, and all the fitness tests and benchmark data that we want our players at, I'm going to show you 10 activities that we can do depending on the moment of the season, depending on the period of the season that we are at. And in this slide, you have all the 10 exercises here on the left, okay? And I put the sets, the repetitions, or the duration of each set, and the period of time that you are resting. Depending on this is depending on your program when you decide the time to do one or the other. But usually, it's like more precision at the top, and then more competition phase down the bottom, as a general rule. But it doesn't need to be like that. Okay. So here we have a circuit on the court that players, they start from the corners where the numbers are, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5, and each 4 players, they just start at the same time, and they can do it with the ball or without the ball, and they do some sprints forward, then they get a ball here, and they do like zigzags through they dribble the ball, and they have a shot onto the goalkeeper. Then after the shot, they come here and they sprint forward, back pedal, forward, back pedal. They jog to recover, half a sprint, they jog around the court. So that depends on you. You can implement at the corners here before they start to do some squats, lunges, sit-ups. So this is an aerobic endurance. And on the left, you have the ratio of work and rest that we will use. In this one, it's more specific. It's as you can see on the video, there is a possession game, 4 versus 4, where you have 4 floaters or 4 bumpers outside. 2 of them, they have balls in hands, and 2 of them, they don't. You only play with your color. If you play out with the players without the ball, this one, you switch with them, you play out, you go out, and the player goes in. If you play with the players with the hands, with the ball in hands, they have 2 options. Option 1 is that player make a pass and stays out, or option 2, if there is a gap, if there is a space, stops the ball that receives and goes out with the ball that the player has on his hands, and the other player comes out and take the bumper's position. That is an aerobic exercise, and we should do this for 15 minutes twice, recovering 3 times. Here we have another circuit, a bit more working on sprints, because the players, basically that player is going to sprint the whole length of the court, collects a ball, dribbles, stop the ball at the halfway line, sprint to the end, back, collect their own ball, dribble, and 10-meter shot, and after that you go to the opposite corner. And here is the same, sprint, in and out, the goalkeeper will deliver a ball, and it's a 1v1 against the goalkeeper. As you can see now, it's more intense, it's around 35 seconds of work, and then you come back to the line to make sure you recover a bit, and then you go again. And we work 3, 4, 5 minutes per set. We have another one, this time like in a circuit organization. We have 4 stations, station number 1, station number 2, station number 3, and station number 4. Here is just a sprint, forward, back pedal, forward, back pedal, sprint, and the next player goes. Here we are dribbling with the ball at maximum intensity around the cone and back, around the cone. We keep, and we can use different surfaces. We can use the inside, the outside, but the thing is they have to be doing everything at the speed. Here we do some plyometric, jumping. You receive a pass, you pass back, and then you take the passer position. And here you can do a rondo 3 versus 1, or you can do a dribbling exercise very similar to the other one with traffic, where the players, they have to dribble from the middle around one cone and back to the middle, around the other one, back to the middle, and there is some traffic. The thing is, we do 30 seconds at maximal speed and 30 seconds rest to switch from the station to station. And then we repeat the circuit 3 times. This one, as you can see on the video and on the graph, basically the players, there is 2 variations. One is in the middle, from the middle, so you play the ball and then you go up the cone, and back to the middle, you will receive the ball, the other player will do the same, and then next time you go to the opposite side and back to the middle. Or this one, now, there is one player is making a diagonal pass, and the other player is going to do a parallel pass, and then you have to switch. But everything needs to be up 100% of your intensity. These guys, they are 2 of my 2 goalkeepers. That was those videos. They are from England, from Libya, or from the UEFA course that I delivered with the England FA. And the key is you work as quick as possible, as intense as possible for 30 seconds. Then you can rest for 30 seconds completely, or you can jog around the court for 1 minute, and then we repeat this 10 times. It's a very, very intense exercise. Here we have one to work on the speed endurance, more applied to futsal. We have players sprinting, doing zigzag, as you can see. The player, yellow, who received the ball is the first one who gets to the halfway line, receive the ball from the goalkeeper, and it's a 1v1. After that 1v1, because he was attacking, now he's going to defend. And to do that, he needs to go to the corner and touch the corner, and the defender needs to go to the halfway line and receive the ball. And it's a second 1v1. And then there is a transition, sprinting the whole court. We can modify that exercise if, so we have the player who gets the ball, first receive the ball is a 1v1, then he needs to go to touch the corner, the other guy halfway line to receive a second ball, so it's a second 1v1, and then they have to sprint back. But if you want, here, you can put another goalkeeper, and it could be a 2 versus the goalkeeper in the way back when they are tired, or even you can put here the defender, and it's a 2v1 on the other side. So that is the progression that we can do on this speed endurance exercise. Here, we are working on speed displacement, and on the top right corner is more specific, okay? We have an agility ladder, go there, go back, and then jump. If you see me here on the right, I am with 2 cones, and basically they have to react. If I put my yellow up, they have to go here to the yellow. If I put the red, they should go to the other one. At the bottom is very similar exercise, but we applied into a shooting exercise. So the players, after jumping, they will receive a ball, they do in and out, and then there is around 9 meters shot. So it's more specific if we want also to finish with one transferable into shooting. This one, reaction speed, we have 2 groups. One group working here, one group working on the other side. The exercises what we put here, they are different. So there are 4 different exercises. The idea is to do that as quick as possible. The players, they are passing the ball back and forth one touch, and they go through to do in and out, or to do agility ladder here, or jumping here, or zigzag here, okay? And the thing is, they do 4 times. So this group is going to do 4 times this, and then switch to this side. This group will switch to the other side. So basically it's 8 times, and this is 1 set. And then we repeat this exercise for 6 sets. Very, very demanding exercise. This one, we have 6 cones and 6 players, and they are working at the same time, and it is a race. So if we look at number 2 here, the player number 2 is going to go to the cone and back to the circle, go to the next one, back, 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 and go again to the first one and back, and you finish there. So basically it's 7 sprints. And the 6 players, they are doing it at the same time. So it is a race, and it is a race between them. And usually what we do is repetition 1, we go forward and going back pedal. The second one is going one direction, then the other direction, then forward and going back also forward. So we do 4 sprints, and what we have is 6 players working here and 6 players resting. As soon as the players working, they finish, the other ones, they go in, and this guy, they rest. So that way, the ratio of working, resting is exactly the same, because usually the duration is the same. The players, they are going to sprint for the same amount of seconds. So, and we repeat 4 times. Here, we have 2 groups. One team in red here. Check the graph on the left, please. One group here. We have a series of cones here that they follow the same pattern. There are 3 different colors, and they follow the same pattern, as you see. And the coach is going to set out the color, or is going even to show a color. Yellow, for example, that means that there is a race. The yellow, they have to go in and out to those cones, and then there is a box here. And the players, they have to sit down. The reason why they have to sit down is because in this exercise, we are working on acceleration, but at the same time, I want them to break down and decelerate to work on your hamstring muscles to prevent injuries. And the hamstring muscles, they are the muscles that they are helping you to decrease your speed. So if you tell them to sit down, you have to stop completely. The player who sits down first, in this case, well, this guy, will receive the ball from the goalkeeper and will have to attack diagonally the opposite goal. That gives time to the defender to arrive. And we have a 1v1 situation here. Okay? There is a possibility that you can even put some exercises here or here. So the goalkeepers, they don't start from the position on the goal. They start from the middle. And after delivering the ball, they go through the agility ladder or through the goal that they need to go. I'm going to play this one more time, and then you can see. So they are sprinting. The player who sits down first will receive the ball and will attack the opposite goal diagonally, and it's a 1v1. Okay? Another example. 1v1, opposite. And there is a progression of this exercise. The progression is we can work on a 2v1. How? We put one player here at the corner and the other player over there. So now it's the same rule. The players, they receive the ball, and now it's a 2 versus 1. And you can limit, for example, that if you play the ball to the player, you have to finish one touch, or there is no pass back, or that depending on the level. But here we are working on acceleration, deceleration, and tactically on a 1v1 and all 2v1s. Of course, we always have a flexibility protocol that we always repeat in every single cooldown. And the protocol is directed by the fitness coach, so everybody is doing the same. After that, we have a foam rolling protocol, working on your calves, IT band, glutes, quads, hamstrings, low back, the groin, and also the players, they follow. We have always the same protocol, and we, in between, we always have core stability that we include in our cool down. Okay? So we finish the training. We finish the 10 activities that I wanted to show you. And as I said, training is super, super important. But our players, they train for 2 hours, 1 hour and a half. What is also important is how to recover. So the day is if you train very, very well for 2 hours, but then for the next 22 hours of the rest of the day, you don't do the proper things, or you don't do what you need to do to recover properly, then the next session you are going to be tired, and the next session even more. So at the end, you are not recovering, you are not regenerating, and your risk of injury or your performance will be so your risk of injury will be higher, or your performance will drop. So I'm going to show you how we monitor and how to try to teach our players this. So we use this, okay? All the players, they receive this, and there is 5 big departments. One is nutrition, the other one is hydration, sleep and rest, how relaxed you are, and cool downs and stretching, okay? So the players, they are assessing themselves. They have the days here, Monday to Sunday, the whole week, and here is the total points that you can get in each department, okay? So for example, if you have breakfast, you give yourself 1 point. But if you have only a bit, you don't eat your full breakfast for any reason, you get half a point. But if you skip breakfast because you were busy, you have 0 points here. If you sleep 8 hours, you get a 3 here. But if you sleep less than 6 hours, you get 0. So the players, they are analyzing this. And at the end, we have a total number of points per day. Okay? This is the objective. We want our players to have always between 17 to 20. That is good. If they have 15 or 16, it's okay, but they have room to improve. If they have less than 14 or 14 or less, that means you have bad behavior, bad habits, and your body is not going to recover properly. Okay? And as you can see here, this is a whole week. This is a real example of our players. You can see that is Monday, day 1, to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, half day on Thursday, and this is Thursday to Sunday. And you can see there is a big difference here with the number of players that they are in the red zone, so under 14, and the players that they are on the green zone, which is good. Do you know what's the difference between Monday to Thursday and Thursday to Sunday? The big difference is that at the beginning of the week, the players, they were at their houses, training with their clubs, And then they were with us. We called them into a meeting on Thursday to have a training camp for 4 days. In a training camp, everything is structured. We have breakfast. We have pre-test in the morning, pre-breakfast test. Then we have breakfast. Then we have training session. We have lunch. We have nap. We have afternoon session. We have dinner. And players, they follow that schedule. However, when they are at their home, they have their families, they have their own habits, they have whatever. So they don't follow that structure. That is why it's very, very important that we educate our players and we make them self-conscious of what they should improve. And in following that questionnaire, they can even analyze themselves. Okay, I only have 14 points. So I need to improve on this, on this, and this, on this. Okay? Then we calculate the RPE, the rate of perceived exertion, which is here in the middle, and the rate of perceived fatigue. So at breakfast, our players, they tell us how they feel between 1 to 10. And then right after the training session, they tell us how hard the session was between 6 to 20 and how they feel between 1 and 10. Okay? And the reason, because we are using different scales, is to make sure that the players, they think. Players, they don't like to do these kind of things. And at the beginning, the scale was the same, so they were giving you 5, 7, 7, 5, 8, 9, without thinking. That way, we break the pattern and they have to think. Okay? The reason we want to do this is because we do the first one on the left here at breakfast. So coaches, they receive that feedback from the players, that information, and we can modify the training load for the session that we are going to have in the morning. And the same here, we want to analyze how the players, they perceive the session, because us as a coaches, we do the same. So we ask the coach, the assistant coach, the goalkeeper coach, the fitness coach, and what do you think about the session? And then we compare the perception from the players and the perception from the coaches to try to adjust our future sessions. We were lucky, okay, because our players, we had heart rate monitors. So the software gives you something that is called the heart rate assertion. Heart rate assertion. This is a number. So basically, the higher the number is, technically, the harder the session was. Okay, and then we have the RPE here that the player, they gave us. And in an ideal world with small differences, those two lines, they should be almost parallel. They should follow one the other. So here we have the players. They are the same players, okay, on the same order. And you can, if the players, they are honest and you don't have heart rate monitors, and you educate the players to be honest and they understand the reasons, the RP is a perfect example and a perfect tool to control the training load. But here we have, I don't know if you see, but we have 3 players on the top graph and 2 players on the bottom graph that there are some differences. So that player, you see, the RP is very low and the heart rate is high. So there's a problem there. This one and this one. And here, this one and this one. And you can see it's the same player, number 3 and number 4. So then, with this, what we do is we approach the players to try to teach them these things and to try to figure out why they perceive this low exertion, or why the player perceives this high exertion with this low training load. And we can find out the reason, or we can see players that are telling you the truth, and it's very, very interesting. And I can tell you that, for example, those players here, they didn't want to tell here in this specific day, they didn't want to tell the coach that the session was that high, because we had a gain in 2 days, and they thought that if they say that they are tired, maybe the coach is not going to put them on the court. So this kind of thing is super interesting to know about players and to be able to get their confidence and making sure that they understand that the training session that we plan, they are controlled, and that we are making sure that they will reach the competition on the best physical moment. So they have to have trust on us and on the sessions that we do. But for that, we have to gain that trust. Then, as I said, every morning before breakfast, 30 minutes before breakfast, we go to the physio or to the clinic room to do 4 tests. Urine osmolality. We are lucky that we have this machine here to analyze urine. We do a sit and reach test. We do a squeeze test, and then we do a counter movement jump because we have a jumping mat that is connected to this, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. If you think, why are you analyzing urine? The reason is because if you remember this, there is a department that you can get 2 points and about how is your urine, and if the urine is clear, that means that you are well hydrated, you get 1 point and 1 point. Okay, but the player's perception, and this is the truth, so we give them this chart, that is the target. The player perception, and now sorry for this, but you are looking at real urine. The player perception is this, okay? So in our teams, we found out that in the morning, before breakfast, this machine gives you a number. The objective is we want the number to be here, below 600. Over 1,000 is very dangerous, and here in between is warning. Okay, so this is the reality, okay? The reality in 3 days that we analyze is that we have 6 players and 1, 13 players and 6 players again, that they are in danger or warning before breakfast. So they start the day, these guys, they start the day dehydrated, and then we have 2 training sessions. So their perception is that they are well hydrated. However, they are dehydrated at the beginning of the day. So that is why it's important to give this to the players. By the way, the players, they do it by themselves. They come to the room, they do the test. So it's feedback that we give to the players, so then they can analyze, okay, so last night I drank this amount, but I am dehydrated, so maybe I need to drink more. At the end, is a way to make aware our players how they have to behave, the habit that they have to take on board to make sure that they compete and they perform at their best. The squeeze test, I don't know if you see, but between the knees, there is a blood pressure cuff. So we look at the blood pressure. We put 20 millimeters of mercury of air, and the objective is we want players to get over 200 when they are squeezing with the knees and the hips at 90 degrees. We want to get over 200. Reason, because there is some studies that if you get less than 200, your groins they are weak, and maybe the risk of injury is high. Then we do the sit and reach, very simple test, and then we do the counter movement jump as well. And on those tests, okay, we are not looking how flexible you are, or we are not looking how high you jump. What we are doing is we have day 1 here, day 2 here, day 3 here, day 4 here in each test. So the graph is like that. But however, we have then a player that day 1 is there, day 2 is there, day 3 is there, day 4 is there. So the graph, the trend is going down. That tells us that that player is not recovering well. That is why we do this at the beginning of the day, in the morning, before breakfast. So we have time to individualize the training load for that player, or even if the whole team is tired, to have time to give this feedback to the coaches So the coaches, they can modify the training load for the session that we will have in the morning. That is why we are looking at those tests, okay? If you want to learn more about recovery and regeneration, we published a paper of all these things when we were working with the England national team, and has a free access. You can check it out and learn more. So to finish, as we said, the demands of the sport is that futsal is a high intensity sport, intermittent, that there is a lot of accelerations and a lot of actions that they are short, but at maximal intensity with a very, very small period of time. That is why the heart rate recovery index in futsal is so important, because we want players that they are able to recover between games. Usually in international competitions, you play 2 or even 3 games back to back, and between sessions. Because we are working in a national team, we don't have time to do non-specific fitness. That is why we use integrated training methods, and we try to do everything that we can with the ball. And as important as the training session is the recovery time, the 22 hours a day that you spend on your own, that is absolutely massive, that what you can do on those 22 hours to recover and be on the best possible position for the next activity. And it's very, very important to educate players, to give them feedback and give them their ownership, so they can adjust their habits, they can adjust their recovery strategies to regenerate and be ready for the next exercise, for the next drill, for the next game. That way, at the end, their performance will increase and the team performance will be higher. So now, thank you very much. I hope everything has been clear. And if you have any question, I am here ready to listen to your questions and try to answer them. Thank you very much.
Daniel, thank you very much for the very thorough presentation. If you don't mind, maybe sometime after this time passes, maybe I'll come out to the Bay Area and train with you. You're not too far from me.
Okay, no problem at all. You are more than welcome.
Do a little training. There are some questions that came from the audience, and I want to get to most of them here today. But I wanted to ask you something about when it comes to this sort of training. It's obviously there's a standard where you want all your players to get to and be in, especially when we're talking about heart rate zones and what zones we want them to be in. But a lot of these things are also individualized. So do you take one approach to everybody, or do you try to custom plans per player depending on where they're at, where they start?
The individual training programs that we give, they are individualized to each one. And then when we are training together as a team, the only moment that we individualize is if we see that players, they are extremely tired. Maybe we speak with them, we speak with the coaches, and maybe that player is going to take a break, for example, in the last 20 minutes of the session or in the last 15 minutes. On the opposite, if we see that some players, maybe they need some extra work, like for example, their core, or maybe if the session is at 5, we tell them to be on the court 20-15 minutes earlier, and we do some pre-activation exercises individually with those players, together with the physio or with myself.
Definitely. And I want to ask you a question. This came from Gareth Welch, and he says, obviously when you're doing these sprints and getting these interval trainings in where your heart rate boosts up, that's all great for cardio and getting players into shape for the game. What about continuous and consistent running? Let's say a jog where you sort of get your heart rate into a certain zone and you stay in that zone. It's not the highest you can perform. You're given about 60%. Is that kind of training beneficial for teams?
If you are in a pre-season period, so at the beginning of the season, yes, we can do some aerobic exercise, but if you are working in a team that you have the players for 10 months, at the beginning, yes, but maybe for the first 1-2 weeks. But other than that, we don't really do steady runs or just 60% of our aerobic runs, because at the end, we don't really need that in our sport.
Yeah, and then with that too, I mean, the positions vary. So when we talk about players, on the field, this would be good for them. But for somebody like a goalkeeper, and this question is coming from Xavier Costa. He's from Portugal, but he's a coach with a soccer club in Emirates, and he says, "What kind of training do you do for goalkeepers who don't need to have that kind of speed and fitness?"
So goalkeepers, if we analyze the game, the actions that the goalkeeper they have, they are very, very, very short. So usually it's one action because the ball is out, if there is a deflection, there is a save. 2 actions if there is a rebound. 3 actions maximum. So basically, goalkeepers, we work a lot on reaction speed. We work a lot on power and agility, but everything is super short, no more than 10-15 seconds. Of course, at the beginning of the season, we do a bit longer, yes, but it's going to be between 10 to 15 seconds max.
Definitely. And when it comes to getting players ready for this kind of training, what sort of warm-up do you do? Question from Claudia Rodriguez. She says, do you recommend like a 10 to 15 minute just running around to warm up before you start something like this?
So what we do is we jog around or we play some games like for 2, 3, 5 minutes, okay? Then we can do some passing, very basic passing drills. We also do dynamic stretching. And if, for example, we want that day to do a very, very intense with a sprint session, for example, those one that you saw sprinting, before that, we really do a proper warm-up. So maybe we do 15-20 minutes of a possession game or a playing game. So the players, when they go into the sprints, they are properly warmed up. But we don't really jog around the court for 12-15 minutes.
Yes.
Usually it's no more than 4 or 5 minutes maximum, like just jogging.
Yeah, it sounds like taking a dynamic and an interactive warm-up, whether it's a small-sided game or passing around kind of stretches, is the approach that you take. I wanted to bring on a gentleman named Hadi. Hadi is, I believe, from Iran. He's been joining us at the summit for the last few days, and he had a number of very good questions. Hadi, can you hear us okay?
Hello, do you have my voice?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you
Hello,
very
Hadi.
much. Hello, Daniel. Thank
Hello,
you very
Hadi.
much. I have to appreciate it to you and the Soccer Summit about this great presentation and information you brought to us. And it was amazing.
Thank you,
Honestly,
Hadi.
I've got a lot of great tips and a lot of things that I've learned from your knowledge. Thank you very much, Daniel.
No, thank you for your kind words.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And I have to ask you some question. The first question is that, Daniel, about the things that you have talked about, what is the relationship between the coaching philosophy and the method of physical fitness training? Is there any relation between these types of coaching? For example, if a coach wants to defend zonal, is there any special method of working with the physical fitness aspects or not? The second question is that I have a question about the assessment process. You've talked that there are some drills that you can assess the players to understand what capability they have. And can we use a ball as a traits to use in this testing process?
Okay.
And
So
I was wondering if you could answer these two questions. And there are a lot of questions that I have from the physical fitness training and conditioning. There are a lot of questions that I write here in front of me, and I want you to answer. Thank you very much if you answer these two questions, and if there is possibility to have more time and we discuss more and more.
Okay, thank you very much, Hadi.
Thank you, Hadi.
You're welcome.
The first one, yes, definitely. The fitness is related to the game model that the coach has. So if your team is going to defend in zone, it's not. I don't like to say that the team doesn't need to be as fit as if you are pressing. But if you are defending in zone, like very very deep, your players they are going to run less. However, you are going to have a lot of counterattacks. So the players should be very very quick in the counterattacking. On the opposite side, if your coach has a coaching philosophy of pressing high, okay, maybe the players they have to be able and be fit enough to press full core to cover more space. So maybe they have to have a higher level of fitness, if you want to call it that way. Okay, that is the first question. And the second question, yes, about the assessment. I explained one. You can introduce the ball. We have one test, the 4 times 10 meters that we introduce the ball, and we compare the times between the player with the ball and then the same player without the ball. I've never done it, for example, the 10 meters sprint with the ball, but it's another idea that you can implement. Or I've never done the blip test looking at the heart rate recovery index with the ball. I know that some coaches, they have done it, but personally me, I have not done it. And maybe it's a good idea to see the differences between the same player with and without the ball. So thank you for that, because maybe something that we have to think about it.
Daniel, when we speak about assessment, there are certain things that we can measure and be able to, and players can probably assess properly, even though players most time misperceive their condition and their shape. One of those things that are very vital for the player's success is sleep. What sort of measures do you take to gauge their condition when it comes to that part?
Sorry, say again?
When it comes to sleep, players'
Yes.
sleep, what measures do you use to be able to measure how good their quality of sleep is? How is it affecting their overall performance, physical health?
So the first thing that we have to analyze is the number of hours that you sleep. But of course, you can sleep a lot of hours, but then there is no quality there. So there are two things. One is the amount of hours that you sleep, and usually what we aim is to have 8 hours of sleep at night and then a nap during the day, because usually we have 2 training sessions. But then how you sleep? So if you wake up in the middle of the night or not. So for these kind of things, to make sure that the players they sleep properly, and one thing that we found out is that the players they have really problems is on a game days. After the game, they cannot sleep because the adrenaline is too high, or they are thinking about how the game good or how bad the game was, or how many mistakes I did. So the sports psychologist that we have been lucky to have in our team is working on those things. He's having individual meetings with them, but something that we really encourage the players to help the quality of sleep is we try to tell them not to use blue screens like iPhones, tablets, all these in the previous 30 minutes before going to bed, or every bad thought, every negative thought that you have, we tell them to write them down on a piece of paper just before going to sleep. You put all the negative ideas that you are having on a piece of paper, and then you destroy that paper, you put it on the garbage can, and you try to go to sleep. It's like you empty your... but that is the techniques that our sports psychologist is using.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a big difference between quantity of sleep or quality of sleep. And thank you for sharing some of the techniques that your psychologist or your sports psychologist takes towards helping players with that. We're getting a little tight on time here, and I want to get at least one more or two questions here. Alicia Rodriguez Maria asks, do you recommend stretching in the middle of a game or a practice? And if so, how many minutes?
Okay, so stretching is a very, very controversial topic. Years ago, everybody was stretching. Now there are so many studies that they say that stretching is not positive for your performance. Basically, what it seems to be clear is like a static stretching, like holding a static stretch for a long period of time decreases your immediate power. Let's say like that. So I wouldn't recommend like to stretch in the middle of a practice of the game. We try to do dynamic stretching in that moment, but at the same time, it's very, very personal. Some players it's like a placebo effect. So you have to go individually with the players, and if they feel good about stretching, okay, try to convince him. Okay, maybe rather than 20 seconds, let's do 10, 15 seconds or 12 seconds, and then you switch to the other one. Or let's try to incorporate dynamics, and let's see how you feel. However, at the end of the game and at the end of the training sessions, we really have a recovery protocol, a cool down protocol, and we include the static stretching exercises and foam rolling there.
Excellent, thank you. And Daniel, a lot of folks are asking questions about if the presentation is accessible to them and all. And I don't want to ask you these directly right here on the air and put you on the spot, but do you mind when I'd like to give this to everybody as well. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website later this evening. And then there's a comment section. And for the first session that Daniel did, he went onto the comment section and left his information with his email and contact info. And perhaps, Daniel, you could do the same thing again for this one.
Yes, I'm going to do the same. And yes, answering your question very quick, the presentation, I don't have any problem to share it, and will be there on a PDF format.
That is very kind and generous of you. So for those of you who have questions and would like to learn further more about how you can implement this for your team and the players that you have, I highly recommend getting in contact with Daniel outside of the summit and being able to see how you can further collaborate on this. Daniel, I want to take a moment here and say thank you very much for the knowledge that you bring, but not only that, the passion that you bring behind this knowledge. It is very evident, and I haven't met you in person, but it's very evident through the camera. Thank you very much for the high quality presentation and the great information that you're sharing with all of us. It's been a pleasure moderating this session with you.
Thank you very much, Hamza. It has been a pleasure to be here these 2 days. And I want to say also thank you to you and America's course for putting this event together, because I know how much you have to work behind the scenes, but at the same time, how important it is for coaches that now that we are not on the field, we can learn from each other and share information and basically be better coaches to be able to improve our players. Thank you very much.
I really appreciate that. Thanks very much. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. The session is recorded and will be uploaded later this evening. I hope you benefit from it again. Daniel, thanks again. And everybody, please stay safe, stay healthy. Hope to see you very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.